So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this faux stone looking Aztec, Star Wars Aztec calendar, kind of from start to finish. It's a little bit of a long video, but I'm trying to cover all the steps to help everybody out from the beginners to the more advanced users. Um, Sit back and enjoy it. As you can see, the results turned out really well, way better than I expected. So let's go through it together. So the first phase of this project is, this is just a cheap little, about 12-inch mirror, 11-inch or clock from Walmart. Cost about $11, $12. Uh, just looking for something cheap just to give this a try. Now, the first thing you got to do is pop the whole thing apart. This one has these little clips. I'll pop all these little clips out. Hopefully this whole back piece will pop out and we'll be able to get the glass out, and then we'll go to the painting section and get that glass cleaned up and painted and go to the next step. Try to always save these clock mechanisms if you can, and you can use them on future projects. We'll see how much I can salvage out of this housing. It's nice if you can find clocks that this whole back piece is a solid wooden piece and that pops out. This is all plastic, probably since it's a $12 clock. But it usually works better and gives you more options if you can have just a solid wood back that it's easier to paint over, flip it over, and have more options. But this is a demo, just trying something new here, so we'll see if we can make this $12 clock work. So once I got the back popped off, I can easily get to the glass. It's just nice and loose in there. This plastic piece is all one piece. I'm going to try to take all the clock mechanism apart. There's usually just a little screw here in the middle that you can unscrew, and then you kind of got to pop the clock arms off. They're usually just kind of pressed into a little keeper ring in there. Sometimes you can salvage them, sometimes you're going to bend them up too much to keep. But like I said, try to keep that clock mechanism whole, because this is a $12 mirror. If you just go and try to buy just this clock mechanism at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's, you're going to spend about $10, $12 just to buy a clock mechanism. And the arms and everything else, you might be up to $15, $20 buying that individually. So try to salvage this clock mechanism. You might be able to use it on a future project. So I'll take that apart, show you the next step. So I had to change locations. My phone was running dead, so I had to get somewhere I could plug it in and keep filming. On this particular clock, you can see all these little holes right here. Like the clock face dial was held into position with little plastic rivets that come through the back of the panel. So I just took a toenail clipper and cut the end of them rivets off, and that allowed me to pop out the clock face dial. And once again, I'm kind of a hoarder. I'll save this clock face dial. I might be able to use it on another project. So save anything you can. You never know when you can use it. If you've seen my other videos, I've used a lot of old stuff that's been laying around in my garage for years just to try different demo stuff on. So if you got the room, save everything you can. Now the only downside is this back sticker here is that it's a sticker. I tried peeling it off. It's not really going to come off, which is fine. I'm going to paint all this background black anyways. Now I've already showed you at the beginning of this project what the final result is, but that's when I was done. This here is actually really the start of the project. Now I got two options with this particular setup. Since the glass face is so much further up than what the back is, I have room to run an LED strip. I might even be able to get 2 loops of a LED strip around this perimeter on the inside between the glass and the back. And that'll allow me to turn this into like a shadow box that is lit up. Now, I don't really know how that's going to look. I'll wait to decide if that's what I want to do when I get to that step of the project, when I cut in the Star Wars Aztec calendar. I'll burn all that image through the painted layer, and then I'm either going to decide whether I want the LED strips or if I'm just going to black out that pattern through the stone, the faux stone painting effect on the front. So right now I'm going to paint this black. I'm going to take out my glass, get some good glass cleaner, clean it off. I'm going to kind of take a 3-tone gray, a really light, medium, and dark gray, and kind of try to create a stone effect on the glass. I'll kind of blotch in some of the light gray, then blotch in some of the medium gray, and then fill it in with the darkest gray, and hopefully that kind of creates a little bit of a stone look, so the whole glass face will look stone. So here's the stone effect I created with the spray paint. I got a few splatter marks in there, but hopefully the design ends up kind of hiding them a little bit. Once again, using old spray paint, didn't quite get the tip cleared off good enough and it kind of splattered on me. Like I said, this is kind of a first try at this, see how it works. Overall, I'm pretty happy with that stone effect. So I ended up painting another layer of black over it, and so that made it a lot thicker, but it also made it to where it was no longer transparent, that if I put the LED strip behind it, the LEDs will only shine through in the areas that the image is completely cut through. I'll have to slow down my burn a little bit from if I'd have just left it as gray. I could have just cut out the image and then sprayed the black over, and that would have filled in the cut in image, and that would have been over. But like I said, I'm not sure which way I want to go on this right now, so setting it up as a light up shadow box. And this is a very thin line pattern, and I just don't know how well the LEDs will light up through them thin lines. If it looks really good, I'll make the shadow box. Here's the back piece. I've spray painted over that clock sticker. Kind of wish I wouldn't have tried peeling it off. That edge is a little rougher looking, but it'll be hidden behind the glass and so hard to see. I don't think it'll make a difference. But right now I'm gonna set up the project to run under the laser. I got it propped up as best I can to be as close to 35 millimeters. That's kind of the 30 to 35. I think you get the strongest beam for these 20 watt Orturs. They're really 5.5 watt lasers. 20 watt is like the full input power of the machine. The laser module is actually only 5.5 watts. So I'm pretty close to 35 millimeters. What I'll do is I'll set the laser on the center point, and then I got it set up for about 10 inch. This is an 11-inch glass. I got it set up for a 10-inch area, so I'll be approximately 15 millimeters off each end on the very edges, so I can kind of get the whole piece centered in that way. I'll get it centered in and I'll kind of show you how that looks when it's over. and that'll be the next section. So this is how I had set up a round piece under the laser. I'd move it to the center, which I do by going to that little icon, move it to center, and it'll come to the center of the project. Now the first thing I would do is go in there and focus that beam. And how I find focus is I'll turn it up into the machine, which is focusing high, and as soon as I see it coming out of focus, then I start turning it down, screwing it downwards, and you'll see these Ortur 20s form a little square, and you'll see that square start shrinking down smaller and smaller. And then as soon as you start seeing it getting a little bit bigger, starting to expand, now you're focusing deeper. And all I do is turn it back a little bit until I kind of just see it shrink back in a little bit, and that's basically where I set focus. I don't have a microscope. I don't run it over a piece of paper or anything. If you're focusing on a piece of paper, you're focusing kind of high. That might be necessary for the tile methods, but for burning a mirror, you want it focused right on the surface, and if anything, maybe a little bit deep, so it's burning all the way through the paint. And then after you focus, you want to make sure you home the machine and get it back to zero, because when you're hand focusing, you're going to move the head around a little bit, and the machine really doesn't register that movement. So if you went right to cutting and something happened to it where it didn't finish the job, when you tried to, like say if you were burning from left to right and you try to come back and restart and burn right to left, after the machine had homed back to zero, it would have lost its position. It would be off. So after you focus, re-home to zero, and then come back to the center, and then start centering your project. And from there on, don't touch the head. Don't move it manually, or you'll get the home position off. So after I had already homed, I'd come back to the center, and then since this is a circle, you can't find the corners. You have to come to the center points of the edges. So from here, you want to come to center, and then you'll come down. This will move you to the left edge. And then for this piece, it's 15 millimeters off the edge. I set it to where every time I move to the edge, I'm 15 millimeters off. And then that way I know I'm centered on the piece. So I'd go there, got that one to 15 millimeters. And then you'd want to go directly across, select that one, and it'll move over to the center of the other edge. And I'd make sure I was 15 millimeters off of there. Now to do the other two edges, you have to come back to the center point. If I would click this one, it would just move straight down and find the nearest edge on that bottom. So you have to come back to center. And then now select move to the bottom edge. And then that's going to be the center of the bottom edge. Once again, I was 15 millimeters off of that. Then select go to the top edge. And I was 15 millimeters off of there, so my image should be just about as close to being perfectly centered on that circular piece of glass as I can get. Now this is still drying. I just finished it up an hour ago. I'm going to leave it in my booth. I'm going to leave it sitting right here. When you're burning off paint, the longer you can let it sit, the better. You know, if it's any bit tacky at all, if the paint is still soft, the laser won't burn it off very well. So if you're going to remove paint, you generally want to let it sit for at least 24 hours and let the paint completely dry. Otherwise the laser is going to have some problems. It might get gummy and it just won't come off. So that's where I'm going to be stopping for tonight. I'm going to leave everything set up just where it is right here. I should be able to turn the machine on tomorrow. I'll verify that when it rehomed back to 0, it kept all its position correct and I'm still centered up well. And from there, it'll just be burning off the image. Right now, that burn is looking to take about an hour and 45 minutes. And I have it set up at 4,000 millimeters per minute, 85% power. Now I'll start that on the edge and let it start going, as long as it's looking like it's burning. Like this one's easy. I'm not trying to do any shading. I just want it to burn all the way through. So if I start it and it doesn't look like it's getting quite all the way through, I'll just stop it and slow down the speed a little bit more until I'm sure. Now it doesn't have to completely remove all the paint, as long as I can see through it. If there's a little bit of film left, I'll be able to clean that off afterwards. So I just want to make sure I'm getting 95%, 98% through the paint. But other than that, it should be ready to go for tomorrow. So here we are on night number 2. I let the piece dry overnight, all day, so it's had about 24 hours to dry. Turned it on, everything stayed centered. Once I turned the machine back on, didn't have to readjust anything. So right now we're only 26 minutes into the burn. It's supposed to be about an hour and 45 minutes. I'll go over quickly. Here is the LED strips that I use for my light up shadow boxes. They're Monster brand. This one here is a sound activated one. So you can go to sound, and so it'll light up anytime it senses vibration. The other one I use, same make. This is also made by Monster. This one here doesn't have a sound option. It has more fade control, where you can set it to have different fades in and out a little more than what the sound activated one has. The sound activated still has a couple different fade settings that would probably work just fine for a normal light up sign. Both of these cost right around $10. They're not very expensive, and as you can see, there'd be plenty of room to wrap this one around inside of this frame, 2 loops, so you'd get plenty of light inside of that housing. I've already kind of decided I'm not going to put the lights into this piece. Probably on my next video. I already got another project in plan that I think, with that sound activated lights, I got a little project I wanted to do, and I think that one will be more suited for that project. And I kind of want to keep the stone look going for this image, so after this is over, I'll still put it over the top of the light so we can kind of see how it looks with the backlit lights. But I'm probably going to try to make the burned out image kind of continue that stone look and look just like recessed stone. So hopefully that burn is leaving a little bit of residue to where I can just paint it black back over it, and there's still just enough light paint residue that when I paint it black over it, it's not pure black. It has like a little bit of a splatter to it, and it just looks like a darker stone color. We'll see how it comes out when I flip it over. But that's just kind of a quick info on what kind of lights I use, where to get them, and hopefully that little something else for your projects. You can make some pretty fun stuff. So got done with the burn. Originally I was going to try to leave the residue on it and paint the black over the residue. but when I put the glass down on a black surface, the black wasn't really showing through very well. So how I clean the glass off is I get a very soft bristle toothbrush, run it under some kind of cool water. You don't want to get much warmer than like body temperature warm, and just very lightly brush off the back of the surface, and that'll brush off all the little light residue that's left over after the burn, and it really makes the glass almost back to clear. You can see how well the LEDs are shining through it. Be way too bright to make a shadow box probably with this setup. So, but the lines are still such fine lines. I'm afraid if I try misting in some medium gray and then black, I'm going to lose a lot of the detail again. So as projects go and you make decisions, now I'm just going to fill in all that glass black against the stonework, and we'll see how that looks. So before I show you the final results, for those of you who watched the book folding video, here is that project all completed. It just took me another night of folding to get it done. I had maybe about 4 hours of folding into it, and in comparison, that would have been probably about 10 or 12 hours if I did it the traditional method. So now we'll show you what the final results looked like. First off, I don't know if you noticed, I used threshold as my dithering pattern. And when I got done, I was kind of worried that I'd overburned the project. I thought I'd burned too deep and burned off too much of the paint, and like the fine lines weren't going to show up. But once I brushed it off and painted it in, it come out pretty much, I don't think I could ever get it more perfect than how that turned out. I mean, all the lines are perfectly clear. Like when I looked at the back of the image, it looked like it was overburnt and that none of the fine lines really cut in. And I was kind of worried about how it would turn out. And then especially after I brushed it off, I thought, well, if I brush it off, it's going to brush off even more of the detail. And it's almost perfect. I can't believe how good for the first try, how well that came out. I mean, I really expected this just to be kind of a rough demo, maybe kind of learn and figure out some ways to improve it. But now I'm kind of wondering if I'll ever be able to replicate that good a product. Honestly, it's like, that is by far better than I ever imagined it would turn out. So I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope it kind of give you some ideas to try. Once again, it's another alternative to trying to burn into mirrors. I just know how difficult it is to burn on mirrors for smaller lasers. And there is alternatives. You know, you can create this stone looking effect, which I really like. I think it's easier to see the image than off a mirror, and really the details really pop out, and you don't have the huge reflection you get with mirrors. So it's another alternative, something to try. Please like, subscribe, share, leave any comments below, good or bad. If there's things I should be doing better or not explaining enough or over explaining, let me know. I'll try to improve on it in future videos. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.